Okay, so we are going to talk a little bit more about Hogan's golf swing, and we're going to do this for a while because we've just released the Hogan modules. So Hogan is the focus here for a while because it's been the focus for me for quite a while. So right now we're going to take a little look at Hogan's swing plane. I don't really like the word swing plane that much because it's misinterpreted. Swing plane is really needs to happen dynamically. The swing plane needs to happen through force, through opposing forces and pressures happening from one side of the swing to the other. It's just like if I take this shaft and I flex it and I distort it. I've got pressure over here going one way, and I've got pressure over here going another way, and that actually stiffens the shaft when I flex the shaft, pre-stressing the shaft, putting kinetic energy in the shaft, or what we would call holding shaft flex. So, did Hogan do something different with his swing plane than his contemporaries or modern players today? And I would say absolutely yes. Hogan's swing plane was created by opposing forces and pressures. Now, one thing, I've set this pipe up here so we can get, it's just kind of roughly thrown in the ivy over here just to give us a general idea as to what's going on. When I look at any player or golfer, particularly Hogan, what I'm really looking at is the shaft. What is the shaft doing? What is the shaft? How is the shaft moving through time and through space? What is the spatial awareness of the shaft? Is the shaft going like this? Is the shaft going like this? Is it cocking early? Is it going late? Is it going late and then setting? Is it never really cocking? You know, all these things about the shaft. Where is it? Where is it in space? So as we can see with this line here, which is really going to represent the plane through the strike, through the hitting area. This is what we're really concerned about. I'm concerned about what Hogan's shaft was doing most. I'm most concerned about what it was doing through the strike, from what we call the parallel before impact, P3, to the parallel after impact, P4. I want the shaft to be doing this through the strike. And over here, to get the shaft on plane, boy, it's a lot farther low left and around than people think. You see a lot of golfers hitting out to the right, and they're out here. You know, swing from the inside, and they're out here, and they're just way off plane. So yes, plane is good, but plane needs to be created through the proper intentions and the right dynamics, and through speed, velocity, acceleration, through the strike. So, getting back to Hogan. Now, when you watch Hogan's shaft, Hogan was never out here on the backswing. He never took it out here. Now, that is a way to flatten the shaft. Yes, we can take it outside and flatten the shaft, but that does have its special problems with that. Hogan figured out he was best to take the inside route and keep that shaft under the plane on the backswing, and then he figured out how to keep it under the plane on the downswing, and then he figured out how to keep it low left and around post impact and up into his finish. Now this is very different than what other people do. I don't see any modern players doing this, and even players from Hogan's era, I see players getting a lot of this right. I see a lot of them getting the backswing right. I see some of them getting the transition right. I see a lot of them down here on the 430 line. Pretty much all of them got this right. But I see very few of them getting this right over here. Now, why is that? Because it's hard, okay? Especially when you're swinging the heavier persimmon clubs like I've got here, This one's my practice club. You've seen this in the videos. And this is 16 ounces, 16 ounce persimmon driver here, which is similar to what Hogan would have been using. Mo, George Knudsen, okay, 16 ounce persimmon, the 1 pound golf club. Taking the club to the inside, tripping the shaft, moving the hands down to the 430 line. Now, you're developing speed here, and the club, if I let go of this club, and I've done this before, it's going to hit the ground and it's going to go out here to the right, as we can see. It's going that way, okay? And if I swing it really hard, it's going way out there. So, as you start to develop speed, then you really need to start creating better structure, cohesive body tension, pressure points, and some strength, because you're going to be taking this and what I've referred to in other videos and advanced ball striking students have heard me talk a lot about the orbit pull, and the orbit pull is exactly this. As we're on the 430 line, this club wants to go this way, but we're going to pull this thing this way. So it takes some strength and some pressure to do that, and we can assist in that by turning our shoulders level, keeping our upper arms close to our body as we go through it, and trying to maintain our wrist cock going through the strike. And we've got drills that we work on over and over and over to try and strengthen these things and do this correctly with all the right pressures and everything in place. Now, as my swing has been developing recently, by applying this Hogan methodology, I'm generating a lot more club head speed than I ever have with a 16 ounce driver, which is heavy and that mass, and I have to pull a much harder than I ever have before with the orbit pull, because I've got mass wanting to go this way and I'm trying to pull it this way so that I can keep the club face looking at the target longer, rather than using a swinger's release, which is going to straighten the right arm and throw the toe over, and now I've got a lot of real active toe going through the strike and all the timing stuff. So I don't like that. Maybe you want to do that. I don't. Take that out of the equation. So most golfers are told to swing upright here, and they come down steep and they throw their right arm at it to close the club face. The other golf swing looks like this. You see a lot of this stuff going on. Finish high. High, okay. And that's a typical swingers kind of release. And well, since we're on the Hogan conversation, well, then that's not what Hogan was doing at all. Then you've got the guys that are saying, you know, you want to take it inside and come over the top, do something like this. Well, that's no good either, because that's not what Hogan did either. So what Hogan did is he kept the shaft under the plane. He tripped the shaft to keep the shaft under the plane, moved it to the 430 line, and worked it low left and around through the strike. Okay. Now, you need to learn this at slower speeds. You just do. It's the same thing as, well, I'm a guitarist also, and if I'm trying to learn a guitar riff, or I'm writing a lead part or something, I'm going to do it slow, figure out what I'm trying to do until I get my fingers up to speed to where I can do it fast. But I don't just do it fast. I'm going to figure out what I need to do, and if I'm learning something using muscles that I've never used before, it takes time to learn these things. Same thing with the golf swing. It's no different. You're going to have to learn these things in sections. You're going to have to learn to take the proper backswing. You're going to have to learn to do this slowly at first, get the club into position, and then you're going to have to learn to trip the shaft. And as we move laterally and we move down to the right hip pocket, and we know this because Hogan's right forearm was almost grazing his right thigh as he's coming into the strike here, right? He's not way out here. He's not out here. His arm isn't out here. It's here. How's it going to get there? It's going to trip the shaft, move laterally, put it on the 430 line. Then he's going to turn level. Now, one thing you'll notice about Hogan that's different than just about anybody is how closed he is coming down. The shoulders and hips are very, very closed, very late into the downswing. But through the strike, they get really open. His hip gets really turned open. His hands are way over here. In his younger days, his shoulder would get a little tiny bit steep here. As he got older, he figured out his back can't handle that. And you turn level going through the strike. And also, as you lose strength, you're not going to turn it in there quite as tight as you do when you're younger and you've got more strength. So we could see that happening. But the intention is all there. It's all correct. So what we would want to do is we want to work on the backswing, getting that correct, and trip the shaft and move through the strike. Now we got to do this at slower speeds first. Okay. That should be pretty close. You'll notice that Hogan's club head on the backswing never gets above the plane. Transition doesn't get above the plane. That club head stays below the plane or on the plane. And his shaft moves up into the plane. So on the downswing, he's moving up into plane, up meaning coming from under plane up to the plane. From the top of the backswing, moving down, is under plane. That shaft needs to be working at right angles to the spine. You can see here, if you trip the shaft correctly, and you've got that shaft working right angles to the spine, now you can really leverage that force as you move it around. If you've got the shaft steep here, and you start turning the shoulders level, well, the club's going to come out here, and you're going to hit across the ball. End up with the slice and all that. Most people are coming down steep. Take some training, take some practice. Get that shaft moving at right angles to the spine, here, down to the 430 line. Most golfers, even the better players, even tour players, guys that are upright, are sliding the shaft down onto the plane. So you have take Jack Nicklaus, arguably the greatest player of all time. And he would have the right elbow coming out a little bit, and that shaft would be steep, and then he would slide that thing back down on the plane. You can see how this is working here, right? It's above the plane, coming down onto the plane. And yes, you can do this and work low left and around. Okay, this is one way to swing a golf club. You can obviously have very good results like that, obviously. Jack Nicklaus, right? Okay, but it's not Hogan, and we're talking Hogan. I recently saw Jack on TV talking about Hogan. I don't know, it was 1960 or something, and he was saying how Hogan had hit every green for the first 36 holes, and then in the third round he had hit the first 16 greens, so he went 52 holes without missing a green.
I learned so much from Hogan. I mean, Hogan hit the 36 holes previous to that round, he hit every green. And then he hit, I take that back, he hit the 18 holes previous, then they hit the first 34 with me, regulation. So he hit, what, 52 greens in regulation?
Jack understood what a great striker Hogan was. Again, I'm going to come back to this. Was Hogan doing something different from a technical standpoint that gave him an advantage in the ball striking department? I'm not talking about scoring, not talking about majors or tournament wins and all that, which you want a lot of those. A lot of that's short game stuff, okay? A lot of that's putting and chipping and wedges and all that stuff. We're talking about just ball strike. I'm talking about how was he able to hit drivers, long irons, be the great ball striker that he was. That's what we're talking about here, okay? We're talking about getting the shaft on plane through the strike. So we do this slowly. We're going to learn this slowly, okay? and then we can start ramping it up to where we're going to do these things faster. Okay, and right there I can feel I didn't pull it hard enough left. Okay, so I'm going to have to pull that even more. Okay, slotting it. Yes, I can feel that happening. Okay, I'm slotting the club well. Okay, a little bit better. Technique, technique, technique.